girlfriend of a Boston police officer whose body was found
in the murder trial of Karen Reed after the jury said it was unable to
they will
reach a
retry
verdict.
Karen Reed
is
after a
accused
judge
of
declared a mystery.
Hi, alternates. Welcome back to day 30, the big 3-0. We are back for the Karen Reed retrial, and the courtroom was in full swing today. We had intense cross-examination, tensions between the attorneys, as always, a defense expert who wasn't backing down, and a judge who had zero time for nonsense. But listen, it's Judge Cannoni, or as Tabitha likes to call her, Bev. All right, let's get into it. Back on the stand today was Dr. Elizabeth Laposata, a former chief medical examiner of Rhode Island. As we learned yesterday on day 29, Dr. Laposata has been involved in thousands of death investigations. And today, she made her opinion very clear. John O'Keefe did not die from hypothermia. He died from blunt force trauma to the head, and that injury made him immediately unconscious. She said this type of brain injury, a coup contre coup, rattles the brain inside the skull, causing massive swelling and bleeding. According to her, within 15 to 20 minutes, that swelling would have pushed into the brainstem, ending in almost like near death, like within that time frame.
Do you see what's displayed on the screen above your head?
Yes.
What is that?
Excuse me, that's a cross-section across the brainstem of Mr. O'Keefe, and it shows where the blue arrows I've put in there show the red areas, which are areas of bleeding, which is the sign of brainstem herniation. All the background is white material, and that's part of the appearance of neurons in the brain. So that shows that the brainstem, because of the brain swelling, pushed it down into the hole in the base of the skull where the spinal cord goes, and it pulls on the blood vessels, causing the blood vessels to break and the blood vessels to bleed, and that shows you that the brainstem has been compressed and damaged, causing death.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm holding a green laser pointer.
Oh, thank
You could
you.
use the display to your right so the viewers can better see it. Could you point to the areas with that laser pointer of the bleeding that you indicated causes the swelling?
Okay, so, okay. Is that going on the...
It is. It's
Okay,
probably
thank
hard
you.
for you to see.
Oh, that's okay. So this sort of roundish thing is the brainstem, and the arrows are pointing to the red areas. So there's a blood vessel that's broken there because it's been torn and pulled, with surrounding blood going into the neuronal tissue here and over here and over here. And also some of this is also bleeding, with the blood looking brown because the brain was placed in formaldehyde. So all this brown area, the red area, should not be there.
Is this type of herniation life-threatening?
It causes death. Yes, it is life-threatening.
How quickly, we can take that down. How quickly, doctor, would you expect that this could cause, let's first talk about incapacitation.
Yes.
How quickly would someone be incapacitated after they suffer a coup contre coup injury of this magnitude with the concomitant injuries that you see in the brainstem?
Well, there would be two parts to what that injury would cause the body to do. First, there would be immediate unconsciousness because of the transfer of all the energy to the brain and the massive skull fractures. So that, excuse me, so that would disrupt the normal function of the brain and produce immediate unconsciousness. Then the brain would start to swell, and within 15, 20 minutes or so, then that brainstem starts to go down the opening in the bottom of the skull, and then the blood vessels are broken, the brainstem gets compressed, and the centers in that brainstem which control the heart and the respiration then stop. So you go unconscious, brain swells, then you die.
Turning to the actual, your review of the actual brain, in this instance, Mr. O'Keefe's injuries specifically, did you reach any conclusion or opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty about his incapacitation, the length of time it would take for him to become first incapacitated and ultimately to to be rendered dead?
He would be immediately incapacitated with a decreased level of consciousness. Once he received that impact on the back of the head, he would not be able to make any purposeful movements. There might be some arm jerking or some seizure activity, but he would not be able to carry. He wouldn't be able to get up. He wouldn't be able to walk. He wouldn't be able to do any purposeful activity. He would be severely concussed, unconscious, not able to walk, not able to carry out purposeful activity. And then as the brain continues swelling and that brain stem gets compressed, then the heartbeat is disrupted, the breathing is disrupted, and then those heart and breathing stop. And within 15 or 20 minutes, then he could be dead.
So it's so interesting because Dr. Laposato's theory challenges the Commonwealth's entire theory. And Dr. Laposato's testimony was at odds with Dr. Wolf's testimony. Remember him? He was the Commonwealth's brain surgeon expert, not to be confused with the other Dr. Wolf, who was the test dummy expert. Dr. Wolf, the brain surgeon, testified that John likely survived for several hours with his head injury before dying. Dr. Laposato also said that John did not suffer from hypothermia at all. On cross by Brennan, he tried to get Laposato to admit that hypothermia could have played a role, pointing to John O'Keefe's low body temperature of 80 degrees and even noting EMTs tried to warm him up. But Laposato said, nope, not hypothermia, not in this case. She pointed to the absence of ulcers in the stomach lining known as Wisniewski spots. Don't quote me on that. And these spots are a typical marker in hypothermia deaths. Dr. Laposato showed reference photos for comparison.
Because if someone can drop 4 degrees of body temperature in an hour.
A dead body.
Yes. It would only take about a little over 4 hours if it was at 4 degrees to go from 98.6 to 80. Yes?
Correct, yes. So he was exposed to that cold environment for 4 to 5 hours.
If somebody was alive for a couple of hours, it's a lower rate. Say they'd lose 3 degrees. And then, after that couple hours, they lose body temperature at 4 degrees, that would still fit and be consistent with the drop from 98.6 to 30 degrees, to 80 degrees, wouldn't it?
No, but you were saying a dead body cools in a cold environment at maybe 3 to 4 degrees an hour, and that has nothing to do with a living body and how long they can stay at a body temperature.
Do you disagree that somebody could be alive, lose body temperature out in the cold, freezing temperature below 32, they could lose body temperature at a certain rate, then die, and then continue to lose body temperature? Is that possible?
Anything's possible. It's just what's important is what happened in this case.
I'm asking for your medical opinion, though, rather than to be an advocate. As far as your medical opinion,
So sustained, and I'll strike that.
as far as
Dr.
your
Laposata,
Yes.
could you listen to the question, please?
Of course, thank you, Your Honor.
As far as your medical experience, could somebody be alive, outside, in the cold, below 32 degrees, not moving, covered by snow, still alive, and lose body temperature?
Sure.
And then could they, after an hour, 2 hours, could they then die and continue to lose more body temperature?
Sure.
Brennan asked if Dr. Laposato reviewed health data from John O'Keefe's phone, DNA evidence, or vehicle data, and she said she hadn't. Her response, well, you can listen for yourself.
Can medical professionals disagree on opinions about wounds and causes?
I suppose they can.
You also gave some opinions that you did not believe that Mr. O'Keefe's scratches were caused by having some impact with broken pieces of plastic or glass, correct?
Correct. They weren't caused by that.
Broken plastic or glass can cause a number of different angled wounds, can it?
It causes an array of irregular, random injuries.
It can have infinite different patterns, couldn't it?
Could.
There's nothing to hold a wound from a broken shard to be north or south or east and west. It all depends on how the force is impacted on the body, true?
I'm not quite clear on your
Okay,
question.
I'll try to do better. When you're talking about shards of broken glass or broken plastic, there is no set direction that they may cut somebody, is there?
Well, it would depend on the case and how those occurred.
Right. They can happen in many different forms as far as depth, yes?
Well, anything's possible.
Right. How about length?
What about length?
Wouldn't that change? Couldn't that change depending on how the injury occurred, the length of the wound?
Sure.
And in this case, you talked about your opinions of injury relative to a motor vehicle, didn't you?
That was something I considered.
That's something you considered. Did you know much about the details of the motor vehicle in this case?
Yes.
Okay. When you considered your differential diagnosis, did you consider whether there was any DNA on the vehicle?
I didn't look at any of that.
I'm sorry?
I did not look at any DNA.
Did you know if there was any hair on the vehicle?
I don't know.
Did you consider the scene itself where there may have been a debris field? Did you take a look at the debris field in this case?
I know there were photographs of various pieces of plastic around the area where the body was found.
And do you remember where those pieces were found?
Somewhat, yes.
Did you have an opportunity to consider other evidence like a shoe in the area near where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
I know one shoe was on his foot at the hospital, the other was at the scene.
Do you know if his hat stayed with him after he landed on the ground?
The hat was in the area where his body was found.
Did you take a look at his pants, the back of his pants?
I looked at that, yes.
Okay, what did you see when you saw the back of his pants?
Well, because he had bled from the back of his injury and he was on a hospital gurney, some of that blood came down, so some of the blood was on the back of his pants.
Did you see anything else other than blood on the back of his pants?
I don't remember.
I'm sorry?
I don't remember if I saw anything else.
Did you look, when you were doing your differential diagnosis, did you look at any evidence other than physical evidence? Did you look at any data evidence?
I don't know what you mean, data.
Like data you would find on a cell phone?
No.
Did you look at any of the data evidence from the defendant's Lexus?
No, other than looking at the contours of the back to see if it had impacted Mr. O'Keefe.
When you were doing differential diagnosis, did you look at any information that would tell you what the speed of that impact may have been or allegedly was?
Well, it didn't hit him, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. So you didn't care to know anything about the car or the data in the car because you had already formed your opinion?
It did not hit him, so it was not relevant to my opinion.
Is that a different way?
By looking at the body, I could tell that there was no evidence of impact with a vehicle. So whether the vehicle was going slow or fast is not relevant.
Well, that was forward. So let's talk about those controversial arm injuries. Dr. Laposata testified that the wounds on John O'Keefe's right arm were not caused by broken plastic or taillight shards. Again, she testified that they were not caused by broken plastic or taillight shards. In her opinion, those injuries looked more like animal bites or even claw injuries, a pattern that she says that she is trained to recognize. Brennan tried to poke holes in this, literally asking how many punctures she could count on John's sweatshirt and whether it could have been, whether those puncture wounds could have been from a piece of glass. At one point, she was like, I don't know how many puncture wounds there were, but when he showed her, she counted about 6 or 7. Then she admitted that a thick piece of glass might be able to cause the nose injury. So there was also a nose injury on John O'Keefe's nose. At first, she said that the nose injury was definitely not caused by a piece of glass. Then she said maybe. And that change of heart came when Brennan told Dr. Laposata, well, did you know that Karen Reed said that when she got to the scene, she pulled a piece of glass from John O'Keefe's nose? And that was when Dr. Laposata was kind of like, well, I guess it could have been from a piece of glass. Now, when Brennan said, so what do you think about the fact that Karen said that after she pulled this piece of glass out of his nose, that blood spurted out? Dr. Laposata said, well, a dead person wouldn't spurt blood. So that's interesting. Additionally, I will say that in watching the video, I didn't put this in my notes, but you know that John had an injury kind of like by his eyebrow or something like that. Brennan had her look at that image, or maybe it was on direct examination. Jackson had her look at that injury and then at the lip of the SUV and asked her, hey, could that injury on his eye have been caused by the lip of this SUV? And she said, no. All right, let's go back to John's condition. Dr. Laposata reviewed photos of the head wounds and described, and I'm talking about the back of the head, and described a horizontal scalp tear with tiny vertical lines. To her, this injury meant that the head hit something with a ridge, something granular, not flat, and definitely not the grass outside of 34 Fairview Road. When Brennan asked her if she had been to 34 Fairview Road, she said no, but that she had seen pictures. When presented with a picture of the entire scenery of 34 Fairview, she said she did not see anything in the immediate vicinity that could have caused the injury that John had suffered on the back of his head. Dr. Laposata also ruled out any suggestion that the marks on John O'Keefe's torso were injuries from a fall. She says they were caused by the Lucas chest compression machine. And you may have recalled that some of this testimony was also taken from, I believe it was the ME and maybe some of the first responders. The defense even showed a photo of a Lucas device in use on another patient for reference. When presented with this picture, Dr. Laposata explained that the Lucas machine compresses the chest so forcefully that it can actually leave visible marks on the stomach lining. Like, let's talk about like on the inside, not on the outside. She also says that the red spots that were found inside of John's stomach were not ulcers, but redness caused by the machine. And that was another reason why she said this is not, there are no signs of hypothermia. She also found that there was no frostbite, which you would usually see with hypothermia. Now, Brennan wasn't about to let this go without a fight. He challenged Laposata's credibility, bringing up old audits. I'm talking about way old, like 2003 audits during her time in Rhode Island, including this one time where there was an audit following the tragic station nightclub fire that killed 100 people. Brennan said that Dr. Laposata refused to go to the scene for hours and hours. Dr. Laposata, however, disagreed, saying that there was a flurry of negative press and that her investigator was there first. Jackson pushed back on Brennan's attack, saying that it was political and irrelevant. He also pointed out that Brennan has actually used Dr. Laposata in several of his own cases. And remember, Brennan, the special prosecutor in this case, is a real life defense attorney when he's not working the Karen Reed case. So if Dr. Laposata was such a terrible expert, why did Brennan keep hiring her? The judge agreed to allow some criticism of Dr. Laposata's past, but not everything that Brennan was trying to bring up, right? And this little spat, of course, occurred off the record. After Laposata was excused, the defense called their final expert, Andrew Rentschler, a biomechanical engineer and accident reconstructionist from ARCA. And yes, he'd been waiting in the hallway all day long. Rentschler's background is impressive. He holds a PhD, has worked on crash safety for military vehicles, the National Hockey League helmet design, and has handled thousands of cases, including hundreds of car crashes. Oh, And this is the guy who redesigned the rink after the infamous, I'm not even sure how to say this guy's name, Chara hit in the NHL. Dr. Rentschler told the jury that Arca was hired for the second trial by the defense and that his colleague Daniel Wolf handled the SUV testing while he focused on John O'Keefe's injuries. He told jurors that, 1, it would take 1,400 to 1,600 pounds of force to cause John O'Keefe's skull fracture. He also said that at 15 miles per hour, Reed's SUV didn't generate enough force. Additionally, he said, the arm abrasions were not consistent with contact from the taillight. He even said if John had been hit by the taillight, there would likely be more injuries than what was actually observed. This directly undercuts the prosecution's crash theory. We didn't get too far with Dr. Rentschler today when it was time to call it a day. The judge told jurors, we're back on track, and confirmed that tomorrow will be a full day of listening to Dr. Rentschler's testimony. After the jury left, Brennan said that he thinks the case could go to the jury as early as Friday. Yay! He believes he will only have about 3 to 4 hours of rebuttal evidence. And let's not forget, though, there are jury instructions, and those can be lengthy. But listen, I am super excited. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then it will be a nail-biting waiting game for us, the observers, as the jury goes back to deliberate. Day 30 was filled with direct testimony that contradicts the Commonwealth's entire theory. I think it's safe to say that this case will come down to a battle of the experts. Who will the jury believe? So listen, get some rest, clear your calendar, because tomorrow we will be back with the full rundown on Dr. Rentschler's testimony. Listen, if you want more of The Alternate, make sure you check out Patreon. Patreon.com/The Alternate, where Tab and I get together and we have unfiltered conversations. Make sure you check us out. Patreon.com/The Alternate. And we'll see you back tomorrow for day 31. Until then, think like a juror, decide like one too.